Mom lifted her glass at dinner and said it without blinking. "We're leaving everything to your brother." They toasted like they were celebrating a coronation. I just sat there, quiet, pretending the words didn't punch straight through me. And the crazy part? They thought I'd stay silent forever. If you've ever been pushed aside by your own family, whisper "I get it" in the comments. And if you don't want to miss the moment the truth flips everything, subscribe before someone else decides you don't matter. That night, something inside me cracked. Not loudly, quiet cracks, the kind you only hear when you've spent years being the strong one. When they toasted to his future, I realized they weren't just choosing him, they were erasing me. Do you know what it feels like to sit at a table surrounded by your own blood and feel like a ghost? To hear your existence reduced to nothing while forks scrape plates and wine glasses clink? They weren't just planning their estate. They were writing my obituary while I was still breathing. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip that table and watch their perfect little celebration shatter across the floor. But I didn't. Because that's what I'd been trained to do my entire life. Swallow the pain, keep the peace. Be the one who doesn't make waves. Be invisible so everyone else can shine. That dinner wasn't just about money or inheritance. It was about worth. It was about decades of being told through actions, not words, that I was less than. That my sacrifices didn't count. That my presence was tolerated, not celebrated. That I was a supporting character in a story where my brother was always destined to be the hero. And the worst part? They didn't even see the violence in what they'd done. To them, it was logical, practical. Of course, they'd leave everything to him. He was the one who mattered. I was just there, always there, reliable, dependable, forgettable. If you've ever swallowed pain just to keep the peace, type "not anymore." And if you're watching without subscribing, tell me why, because staying invisible is how people like them get away with it. It was never new. Since childhood, my brother was treated like the sun, and the rest of us just orbited around his needs. He got soft voices, second chances, celebrations for breathing. I got responsibility. I got silence disguised as being mature. I learned early that some families love unevenly and call it normal. I remember being 7 years old, watching my mother fuss over him because he scraped his knee. She held him, kissed his forehead, told him everything would be okay. That same week, I fell off my bike and split my lip open. Blood everywhere. I walked home alone, cleaned myself up in the bathroom, and when I came downstairs, she glanced at me and said, "You're fine. You're always fine." And I believed her. I made myself fine. I made myself into whatever they needed me to be so that maybe, just maybe, they'd look at me the way they looked at him. When he failed a class, they hired tutors and blamed the teacher. When I got straight A's, they nodded and moved on. No celebration. No, "we're proud of you." Just expectation. Because that's what I was, expected to excel, expected to cope, expected to need nothing. He got birthday parties with themes and guest lists. I got dinner at home and a card. He got college paid for in full. I got loans and a part-time job and lectures about responsibility. He got their attention when he walked into a room. I got their attention when they needed something. And I told myself it was okay. I told myself that love doesn't have to look the same for everyone. I told myself that maybe I was just easier to love quietly. That maybe I didn't need the fanfare. That maybe being strong meant not needing what he needed. But deep down, in the places I didn't let myself look, I knew. I knew I was being sacrificed on the altar of his potential. I knew they were choosing him over and over and over again. And I knew that no matter what I did, how much I achieved, how good I was, it would never be enough to make them see me. Because they didn't want to see me. Seeing me would mean confronting what they'd done. It would mean admitting that they'd failed me. And that was too uncomfortable. So they kept their eyes on him, and I became the shadow that made his light possible. And yet, back then, I still believed if I stayed patient, they'd see me. Have you ever stayed loyal to people who never looked your way? Drop a broken heart, so we know we're not suffering alone. If you're watching this without subscribing, that's exactly how being overlooked begins. Don't let your voice vanish. Then came the message that ended the illusion. No greeting, no warmth, just another demand. Send $2,000 so he can get ready for his future. I stared at my screen, remembering that dinner table, remembering how easy it was for them to decide I didn't matter. $2,000. Not a request. Not a conversation. A demand. As if my bank account existed solely to fund his dreams. As if my own future, my own struggles, my own needs were irrelevant. As if I was an ATM with a family obligation instead of a person with my own life. And you want to know what made it worse? The complete lack of acknowledgement. They didn't ask how I was doing. Didn't ask if I could afford it. Didn't ask if I had my own expenses, my own emergencies, my own plans. Because in their minds, I was a resource. Not a daughter. Not a sister. A resource to be extracted when necessary. I sat there staring at those words, and decades of buried rage started clawing its way up my throat. Every piano recital they missed because he had soccer practice. Every time they interrupted my stories to listen to his. Every time they downplayed my achievements so his wouldn't seem lesser. Every time they asked me to sacrifice just this once, and it was never once, it was always, it was forever. I thought about that dinner, about the toast, about the way they smiled at each other like they'd made a wise decision, about how they probably felt good about themselves, felt like they were securing his future, felt like responsible parents. And none of them, not one, thought about what that moment did to me. My hands were shaking. My vision blurred, and in that moment, something ancient and primal rose up inside me and said, enough. A single word changed everything. I typed, no, and for the first time, it felt like choosing myself. 3 letters, 1 syllable, the simplest word in the English language, and yet it felt like lifting a boulder off my chest. It felt like breaking chains I didn't even know I was wearing. It felt like the first real breath I'd taken in 30 years. No. I will not fund the future you promised him with my past sacrifices. No. I will not continue to set myself on fire to keep him warm. No. I will not pretend that this is normal, that this is love, that this is family. Just no. Would you have said yes or no? There's no safe answer here. Comment your choice. Let's see how divided we truly are. She never saw the fallout coming. Most people don't. Subscribe so you're not blindsided the way I was. 3 days later, they sent the message that should have broken me. You're no longer family. Instead, I laughed, a quiet, tired laugh. Because that sentence didn't exile me. It explained everything. I was family only when I was useful. You're no longer family. 6 words. Delivered via text message like I was a subscription service they were canceling. No phone call. No attempt at conversation. Just a cold, clinical severance of the bond they claimed was sacred. And you know what? It was the most honest thing they'd ever said to me. Because I'd never really been family, had I? Family doesn't treat you like a bank account. Family doesn't erase your worth to elevate someone else. Family doesn't toast to your erasure and expect you to smile. I'd been cast in the role of family, but I'd never been given the love that comes with it. I was the understudy who never got to go on stage. The backup plan that was only activated during emergencies. The insurance policy they hoped they'd never have to claim. And the moment I stopped performing my function, the moment I stopped being useful, they discarded me like I was nothing. Because to them, I was nothing. I was a means to an end. I was whatever they needed me to be in service of what they actually cared about. And what they actually cared about was him. His comfort. His future. His happiness. Always his. My mother didn't call crying, begging me to reconsider. My father didn't show up at my door, asking what went wrong. My brother didn't reach out to apologize for being complicit in my erasure. They just cut me off. Like I was a dead branch that needed trimming. Like I was a problem that had been solved. And I should have been devastated. I should have been on my knees, begging for them to take me back, promising to be good, promising to comply, promising to disappear back into my designated role. That's what they expected. That's what they were counting on. But instead, I felt light. I felt free. I felt like someone had finally given me permission to stop trying to earn love from people who had none to give. Their rejection was their final gift to me. It was the truth I'd been too afraid to speak. They didn't love me. They never had. And I could finally stop pretending that if I just tried harder, sacrificed more, needed less, I could make them see me. But they had no idea the universe was already preparing a different ending. If you've ever been labeled ungrateful for setting a boundary, type enough. We stand together here. And if you don't want to be blindsided like this in your own life, subscribe now. If you won't, comment why, because silence only helps the manipulators. A month later, the lawyer called me. When I saw my parents and brother already sitting there, anxiety and curiosity collided in my chest. The lawyer opened a sealed envelope, my grandmother's handwriting still sharp and certain. My grandmother, the one person in that family who saw me, who asked about my life and actually listened to the answers, who celebrated my accomplishments without comparing them to his, who told me I was strong but never used it as an excuse to neglect me, who loved me not for what I could do, but for who I was. She'd passed away 6 months before that dinner, before the toast, before the exile, and I'd grieved her quietly, alone, because even in death they found a way to center him. The funeral was all about how sad he was, how hard it was for him, how much he'd miss her. My grief was invisible, as always. But Grandma had seen everything. The lawyer's office was cold, sterile. My parents sat on one side, my brother next to them, all of them wearing expressions of polite confusion. Why was I there? I wasn't family anymore, remember? The lawyer had probably made a mistake. I sat across from them, my heart hammering against my ribs. The lawyer was an older man with kind eyes and steady hands. He looked at all of us and said, "I've been instructed to read the true last will and testament of Eleanor Margaret Bennet." True? My mother's face twitched. My father leaned forward. The lawyer opened the envelope, and I recognized Grandma's handwriting immediately. Sharp, elegant, certain. The handwriting of a woman who knew exactly what she was doing. He read her real will. Every asset, every account, every heirloom. She left everything to me, the child they overlooked, the one she saw clearly when no one else bothered. The words hit the room like grenades. The house they'd been planning to sell to fund his business venture. The savings accounts, the investments, the jewelry, the antiques, the land, everything, every single thing. To me. Only to me. And then the lawyer read her letter. Her explanation. Her words. To my granddaughter, who sacrificed her childhood to be strong when no one asked if she needed to be held. Who achieved excellence in silence while others were celebrated for mediocrity. Who gave and gave and gave until she had nothing left and was told she was selfish for finally saying no. You are not the child they chose. You are the child I choose. You are not invisible. I see you. I have always seen you. This is not a reward. This is reparation. Take what is yours. Build the life they tried to deny you. And never, ever apologize for taking up space. My mother went pale. My father folded in on himself. My brother's certainty shattered. And I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just breathed. Finally, I watched them crumble in real time. My mother's hands trembled. My father's face went from confusion to rage to defeat in seconds. My brother looked like someone had ripped the floor out from under him. All the certainty, all the entitlement, all the assumption that the world would continue to hand him everything gone. They'd been so sure, so confident. They'd already made plans, hadn't they? Already decided how they'd spend Grandma's money on him. Already promised him things that were never theirs to give. And now it was all gone. Not to some stranger.
To me.
To the daughter they'd discarded like trash. The lawyer looked at me with something like respect and said, "Everything will be transferred to your name within the week. If you have questions, here's my card." I took it. My hands were steady. My voice was clear. "Thank you." My mother found her voice first. "This is a mistake." She wouldn't. She did, the lawyer said calmly. "This will is dated 2 months before her death. She was of sound mind. It's been notarized and witnessed. It's legal and binding." "But we're her family," my brother sputtered. "We took care of her." I almost laughed. They'd visited her twice a year. I'd gone every week, sat with her, listened to her stories, helped her with her garden, brought her groceries, held her hand when she was afraid. But, of course, they didn't remember that. They didn't see that. They didn't see me. But Grandma did. She saw everything. And she made sure that in the end, the truth would be told. If silence ever became your freedom, drop a crescent moon. Those who healed in quiet understand. The twist caught them off guard. Don't let life catch you the same way. Subscribe. You'll thank yourself later. I walked out of that office lighter than I walked in. Grandma protected the child they never cared to understand. She gave me more than inheritance. She gave me the permission to stop begging for love. The sun was setting when I left, golden light spilling across the parking lot like a blessing. I sat in my car for a long time, just breathing, just existing, just being. For the first time in my entire life, I felt wealthy. Not because of the money, though yes, that changed everything, but because someone had seen me. Someone had valued me. Someone had said, "You matter. Your pain matters. Your life matters." My grandmother, in death, had given me what my parents never could in life. Validation. Worth. Proof that I wasn't crazy, wasn't ungrateful, wasn't wrong. Proof that I had been overlooked, had been sacrificed, had been treated as less than. And proof that I deserved better. I don't want revenge. I want peace. And sometimes, peace is letting the truth speak for you. They tried to call, of course. My mother left tearful voicemails about misunderstandings in family and how we could work this out. My father sent terse messages about legal challenges that never materialized. My brother texted asking if we could talk, as if 30 years of neglect could be solved with a conversation. I blocked them all. Not out of anger, out of preservation. Because I finally understood that some people will only value you when you have something they want. And I was done being wanted for the wrong reasons. I used some of the money to pay off my debts, to take the vacation I'd been putting off for years, to finally put myself first. The rest I invested carefully, the way Grandma would have wanted. I didn't blow it. I didn't waste it. I honored it. And every time I make a decision now, every time I spend money or take time off or say no without explanation, I think of her. I think of that letter. I think of those words. Take what is yours. Build the life they tried to deny you. And never, ever apologize for taking up space. So I don't apologize. Not anymore. I take up space. I speak up. I say no. I choose myself. And it's the most revolutionary thing I've ever done. If you've ever chosen peace over blood, comment, I choose peace. Let's see how many of us found strength the hard way. Stories like this hit harder when you're not facing them alone. Subscribe. Don't be the last to see the truth.